Hey, you are on the Block Party. I'm your host, Joyce Conroy, and this is Ernie's Corner. And once again, I have to give Ernie Cefalu, award-winning creative director and designer, another title. Okay, I've called him co-host, called him partner, anthropologist. Now it's magician because Ernie,
Oh,
you pulled another rabbit
ah,
out of a hat when you told me about this phenomenal artist by
yeah,
the name of Cheryl Ernst Wells. And we are going to talk about her today and a guy who is a legendary producer, Bones Howell.
yeah. It's so great, sure, that Joyce, that we picked this particular cover because it brings back such great memories. And, we talked in the past about how music and how diverse and how complicated and how, fame and music is almost impossible. And it's really painful. It's very painful because you're walking around with your heart on your sleeve, looking for acceptance. And, it's hard to find a right person that won't take advantage of that. I mean, artists are on the top of the food chain for business people. They know that all they need is a little pat on the head and tell you how great you are, and you'll just work till you drop. That's how it works, and they know that. So to find somebody that understands the business of it and has that compassion that both you and I have, um, enter Bones Howe. Bones is today he's 90. I talked to him a few months ago, and I told him about the block party, and hopefully he's tuning in. But he was so sharp; he remembered everything, and um, the guy is a living legend. He was involved with so many. But I met him because of the affiliation he had with Bell Records. They loved him at Bell. We worked on the Fifth Dimension album. Let me pop this up here for a second. And you and I had talked about this particular album on the Ernie's Corner. This was the greatest hits that that Bones put together. He was also a coordinator. He wasn't always producing, but he would produce and coordinate music and became very famous at it, became very, very, uh, successful in it. And one of the reasons that I came to realize later on was that the connection that we had went back to what we talked about last show, which was the Goldust series. When Bones started, he was a huge, huge jazz fan, and um, and when we met him on the Fifth Dimension album, we started talking, and we were showing him samples of some of the stuff. He had heard of us, and I had a couple of the Goldust series covers, and one of them was the Ellis Fitzgerald cover, which immediately I had no idea that he worked with, Ella Fitzgerald, Ornette Coleman, the Association, the Monkees, the Fifth Dimension, Jan and Dean. I mean, Elvis, the Turtles, Tom Waits. I mean, the guy was a huge, huge. I mean, the guy was amazing, and we bonded immediately. And I think that Ella Fitzgerald Goldust cover. I mean, you talk about fate, and I mean, of all those covers, there are 53 covers. I mean, what's the odds of me picking out an Ella Fitzgerald, not knowing that he had worked with her?
It's
You know,
amazing, isn't it,
it
though?
is. Life is really funny, and timing. The timing again. We talked about timing, right spot, right time, right product. I mean, and he just lit up, and he was familiar with the Goldust series. You know, he was an amazing person, and he actually, I mean, another person, another couple that he worked with was Frank Sinatra. He worked with the Mamas and the Papas. He worked with the Turtles. We worked with, again, through Bell Records and, just that whole association. And we became really good friends with Bones. And he had originally reached out to us for this Cheryl Ernst album. He was producing her, and she was a new talent. And the name of the album was Always Beginning. And so I came up with this idea of sitting Cheryl Ernst, Always Beginning, Cheryl Ernst, like in the Matrix, when you just see that, all those zeros and ones and a pattern. that went across the cover to the back cover to the insides of the album. This was the inside. It was a double record, or it was a gatefold album, and putting this together with him was really amazing, and that's where we met her. And you're right, she is got an incredible voice. And Bones really, I think, he added a lot of the things that he did for her, like using incredible musicians. But Bob Avalar, who was the arranger, uh, and he was a jazz guy too. So they put this kind of jazz feeling across the album. And they were at Wally Heider. While Wally Heider was about a block from the crossroads of the world. Across the street from us was Sunset Sound. We were right in the heart of Hollywood and in the heart of the music, production facilities. Wally Heider, all these different, different recording studios. There were a couple out in the valley, but the core of it was right there in Hollywood, and we were in the crossroads of the world, so we were there a lot. We were in the studio with he and her quite a bit, and Cheryl would come over to the office. I mean, sometimes she would come out of doing a recording and have her guitar with us, and she'd sit in the art department and just sing for us while we were working. It was amazing. It was like when I was able to sit with Black Sabbath and get a private concert while they were rehearsing. She was an incredible person. She was a really good person, and she was kind and had a big heart, and she was really again, she was she was in the right spot at the right time to get Bones, and she had signed to Bell, and like I said, Bell loved Bones. Everybody loved Bones. I don't think Bones had anybody in the world that didn't like him, which was another thing, that it's hard to do. It's hard to go through life without having a lot of enemies.
That's true. I did a little bit of research on that when it came to Bones, because I was trying to see if there were any artists that had any difficulty, and I could not find anything in my research.
Everybody loved him. Everybody loved him. And as soon as we met, I mean, definitely the jazz connection. And the fact that, I loved all the groups and people that he worked with. And we had worked with the Fifth Dimension, and, not Jan and Dean, but the Turtles and the Fifth Dimension and the Monkees. We did that refocus package, and Bones put that together. He was really, like I said, sometimes he was an incredible producer. Sometimes he was an incredible arranger. I don't know whether you knew this, but he also did a lot of arranging for movies. He did Back to the Future, and my favorite all-time movie, mainly because the acting, but the soundtrack, was Stand By Me. The what's his name, Meathead from Reiner's
Rob Reiner.
Rob Reiner, Castle Rock. He produced that film, and Bones did the music track for it, which was, I mean, an incredible, and maybe because I'm a child of the 50s, like, some of us, but all those songs just really, struck great memories. And reliving this album with Cheryl was really had that kind of feeling for me, to just really be able to bring back such great memories with her. She was so accessible. And then, like we talked about later on, she became good because Rick Rodriguez and his wife, Mary Jo, lived in Oakland, and they would come to LA quite a bit, and they would always stay with us and hang out in Pacific Pioneer and stuff, because it was a cool place. It was a really cool place to hang out. You never knew who was going to show up, and it didn't matter whether anybody showed up or not. It was just, there was art being done. And we had, like I said, I had 5 illustrators on staff, and every one of them stayed busy all the time. There was never a time that we were just sitting around, unless we designated a meeting or something. There was always something to do. And because each one of them was so versatile in what they could do, it was very scary, Joyce. A lot of times as I look back over it, to be able to have illustrators that all you need to do was show them a sample of something and they could do it. I mean, how crazy is that? It was like Bill Garland with calligraphy. You show them any type font printed or script, and within a half hour at the most, he could do it. He could do we talked about the spiritual sky stuff and those ads that we did for the incense for Rolling Stone magazine. All that calligraphy was done on big pieces of acetate that he lettered each thing, and never made a mistake. It was like Drew. Drew never made a mistake. He never had to patch over something. So to work with those kind of people was really incredible, because we could take on any kind of job. It didn't matter whether it was a music piece or a corporate piece, we could do it, because illustration was really in vogue back then. Everybody wanted illustration until we got heavily into the corporate world, which we talked about, and they want to see pictures of their products, mainly food and beverage, because that's where we started, along with the electronics and low-hanging fruit like Alltech and JBL, those kind of companies. But, back to Cheryl, she had, like you said, she had an incredible voice. Unfortunately, she had everything going for her, but the record companies really, they tried to, and it's obvious, new artists are very hard, and her kind of sound, there was a lot of people, especially women around that era that was doing similar stuff, so there's only room for one, Carole King. There's only room for one, Joan
Carly
Baez.
Simon.
Carly Simon was another one that came top of mind. And, what do you call it? Linda Ronstadt.
Mm-hmm.
There were so much competition. And that has a lot to do with it, too, because it comes down to money that's allocated. Okay. And so they believe in you enough to sign you. They believe enough in you to give you Bones Howe, give you the musicians, the incredible musicians that he brought onto this album. Incredible musicians. And that was, again, Bones had that connection where everybody loved him. Nobody would ever say no to Bones. He was amazing. And we got to know him over the years. We got to know him quite a bit and work with him many times. But then, like life itself, it moves on and takes you in different directions, and people come in and out of your life, but when they come in, if they make a mark, even if they go away and 20, 30 years goes by. When I talked to Bones a few months ago, it was like, he was so sharp. He's 90 and he's so sharp, and he remembered all the stuff. And he really loved Cheryl. He really loved this album. He put a lot of heart into it. And we did too. It wasn't a big budget album, but the title Always Beginning just seemed, and I had galleys of text repeating. In fact, the type house thought I was crazy for doing it, because I needed to set all that type. There was no computers where you could print it out and stuff. This had to go to a type house. So I had, and across the inside, when you open it up, you can't really see it that well, because it's a little bit goes back, and it's my crappy photography, but it's all back there. And then I did these little drawings of the sandpipers, that were there. And it was just such a lot of love for her, and such great songs. And I'm surprised that more people haven't really tried to redo the songs. They're so good. But I guess music takes a turn and, changes, and, you have to be there at that moment when you can really capitalize on it. And then if you're there at that moment, then it becomes something that you have to keep on doing. It's very hard to keep a front of everything that's going on. And, that's why groups like the Rolling Stones and some of these other ones, even Alice, he doesn't really sell songs that much anymore, but he sells his tour. And a lot of them have gone to the tours. That's where they make the money and the merchandise. But the record sales are really not what they were back in the day. And so, along with all the competition that was out there that she needed to break through and get her moment in the sun, you needed the support and the money from the record company. And, it's what's odd to me is why they don't put more into it. They invested, like we said, they invested in a Gatefold album. They invested in Bones Howe. They invested in this lineup of musicians that he brought in, arrangers and producers, and just putting his heart and soul into it. You had thought that they would have tried a bit harder. but it's like one. Remember when we did one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. With reality blip crotch.
Yeah, reality TV Ripcotch. Yeah, exactly. Wasn't the right timing. And maybe you the same thing could say this about Cheryl, in this beautiful album. And again, for me, doing one of the biggest joys, and we always talk about how much you've learned from me, and we just talked about this, but I got to say it. I learned so much from you. The fact that you have the understanding that we're not here to play the top groups. We're here to educate on our life experiences that we've done, you and I, and the stuff that we've done, because everybody knows about Alice Cooper. Everybody knows about the Rolling Stones and Bee Gees. And what about the Cheryl Ernst? What about those? What about those people that really never got another chance? This is the only album that she ever did. And it's a shame. I mean, she's still around. I mean, she coming to Pacific Eye a lot. Our friends Rick and Mary Jo from Oakland would come and visit, and they met. They became good friends. And then Cheryl and her husband ended up moving up to the Oakland Hills and neighbors with Rick and Mary Jo. So, and then I think a few years ago they moved somewhere else. I don't know. And I think everybody, you come in and out of somebody's life, and at that moment you just hope that maybe you'll be able to come back around, But this team, Bones was incredible. He is a living legend, and God bless him. I mean, the guy was it wasn't like I had to even remind him of anything. He just started talking about all this stuff, and it was just great. It was just really great. And what's even greater is to be able to come here, talk about it with someone that, like you, that understands the importance. I mean, it's your goal to do what you do on the Block Party. Otherwise, you'd have stayed in regular radio. Nobody wants that. You had greater aspirations, as I did. I could have very easily become an art director at a record company. I could have very easily, gone off and nobody remembered me. But I kept trying harder and trying to stay relevant and trying to be myself and not jump at every opportunity that came along, to be able to have the ability to look at it closely and not leap into something. I mean, we've all done it. I've done it. I've made mistakes, but it's usually, there's an old Freemason saying that says, only fools rush in where wise men fear to tread. And it's so true. And I think Elvis made a song out of that at some point.
And Rick Nelson sang about it too.
But,
they lived it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the cool thing and the enjoyment that I really get out of here, Joyce, and being here on the block with you is and we've talked about this, I don't sound like a broken record, but, you have not only the ability to connect the dots, you have the heart to do it. And that's a big difference. You never compromise that heart that you have for what you do. And it's easy to do. And sometimes it becomes tempting. I remember, in times when in the different companies that I had, start out with a bang and all of a sudden it goes into the dumper. And it's like, well, maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should figure out, maybe I should go to work for somebody. Maybe, because people are saying, oh, I'll go to work for somebody else. Let it be their problem, not yours, but that has its problems itself. I tried that. I tried even after Pacific Eye and Ear, I tried. And I tried going to work for somebody, and it was awful. It was painful. It was terrible. And I'll never do it again. And then I did it again. And it just reconfirmed the fact that I should have never done it again. So you made the right choice staying out of it, man. I mean, maybe because you get insecure. Creative people have a tendency to be very insecure, and I know I still am to this day. You're a little insecure, like a little apprehensive as to, well, what if, and we talked about this before,
yes, what if
I get a problem that I can't come up with a solution for? But that's not even, failure's not an option. You just move on and you be what you are, and either they like it or they don't. And if they don't like it, then, you find somebody that does like it. There's always somebody out there that'll like it. And for Cheryl, there'll always be someone out there. And that's what's so gratifying, Joyce, to do this with you, to let people know she's out there. all you have to do, and today it's so easy. You don't even go to a record store. Those were stores where you had records and albums and they were bins. Most people don't know that, but you can go online and just Google her name, and there's her whole life right there in front of you. I mean,
And
it's
I
such
did
a
that
wonderful
when
time.
you got me looking, and I looked at this beautiful lady. And then when I went on YouTube and her album, Always Beginning, their excerpts, and I'm thinking, where was I? Her voice is
Yeah.
beautiful. And then she writes her own songs. And then I'm thinking, well, Ernie Cefalu, here he was again. I just keep finding out more. And Always Beginning. And in her biography, she has a website, Cheryl Ernst Wells. That album, Always Beginning, nominated for Grammys in 3 categories: Best New Artist, Best Album, and Best Female Vocalist.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Wow. This
the
should
guy
have been
here
on
was
radio.
we were nominated for 3 Grammys, never won one, but and robbed of one. But it's okay because it puts you in a place where you could have won, you know, and maybe it just means a little bit harder trying, or maybe a little bit better timing, or maybe, there's nothing worse than being ahead of yourself and ahead of time and waiting for people to catch up, and everything to catch up. And Cheryl, again, I think that was part of it. But the biggest problem was that, the record company support and too many other competitors that were already established. I mean, it's hard to break through the clutter and get that moment in the sun. It's very hard.
It is. Tommy
Yeah.
James has shared about
Yeah.
that. He mentioned at a time when he went to MCA, and he said, they were busy promoting what they thought were the bigger artists. So a
Yeah,
lot of
sure.
artists, that's why they established their own labels.
Yeah, yeah. And today with the internet, it gives them the ability to sell records without going to a record company, which is great. And I told you, I talked with Mark Volman from the Turtles a
Oh,
week or two
Mark.
ago. And, they had that same issue. The Turtles were big in the 60s, but then as got into the 70s, their music wasn't really selling like it did originally. Their songs weren't really, getting the kind of airplay they were getting, but they were always flexible. They were unique. They're another couple of guys that really, talking with Mark, I hadn't talked to Mark in probably 40 years, and it was great. We talked about the 3 records that we had done for him, that we had talked about on Ernie's Corner, and we talked about the rock and bowl thing that we also talked about on Ernie's Corner, that we did together. And we had 3,000 kids in the parking lot that couldn't get into the main event because of Mark and Howard. We had 68 rock stars, TV celebrities, movie celebrities. It was crazy. Actors. I mean, it was the group of people that we had that without them, we could have never pulled that thing off. Would have never happened. And it was so great to watch him light up. I'm sure he hadn't thought about that in a long time. Not the albums, yeah, but Active West and Rock and Bowl was something that was very special, and it has a place in time that really brought back great memories, big smiles to both of our faces. And this being able to share this with you, Joyce, this Bones, and with Cheryl, it's just really great. It's really, we're giving it our all. We're giving it a chance. Hopefully people will respond. We have great neighbors here on the block that really hang on everything we do. We talked to Andreas and, some of the new ones, and some of the ones that have been around forever, even before I was there, a lot of them. They're great, and they're open. I think they come to the block party to learn. And you are a great teacher. You really are. I mean, not just about Ernie's Corner, but everything that you do and Tom does on this show that you guys do is just great. I mean, it is what I remember radio being and what it isn't today. And, it's not easy, but like Jones Soda and it's ice cream sandwiches, you build one fan at a time, one listener at a time. And once they're in, they're hooked. And we keep delivering. I mean, I told you, I got the next 6 months of stuff already booked and ready
I
to
can't
go.
wait. We can't wait.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so wonderful.
Yeah.
Ernie, now here comes the famous
Oh
Mind
man.
Meld, and I got to listen to a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
the album, online from Always Beginning. I have my two picks.
Okay. Well, I've got
Let me
to.
hear yours.
Okay. Mine are Love Moan and Always Beginning.
You are something. And we didn't even wear the same color
I know we
today.
didn't. We should have talked. Our people should have talked.
But we didn't get the memo. Love Moan was my first choice, and then
Right.
Come to the Harvest.
Yeah. Yeah. Her songs. There's another woman that we're going to be talking about in a few weeks. And her father was the president of White Front. White Front was one of the original big box stores. And I think they were mainly on the West Coast. But his daughter was a singer and she did an album and we worked with her and she had a deal. They were going to have all the White Fronts because they were nationwide stock her album. And she had this inside connection and it was crazy story. The songs were incredible, just like this. Nobody's ever heard of her. And we're going to be talking about her. So there's going to be, and what I'd like to do is, if it's okay with you, next show, I'd like to talk about Black Sabbath.
Oh, would love to.
Because
Hey,
there's
you got it.
something very unique that we did that wasn't used, but later on got used in a big way. So I think that might be kind of a nice transition from Cheryl and Bones to Black Sabbath.
Hey, we're on public radio. We can do that. That's
We
the beauty
can.
of it,
Isn't that
Ernie.
great? Isn't that?
It
I tell
is.
you, you gotta feel really good. I know I do. Every time we do one of these, I feel really good, and it's become so aware to me of what you and Tom are doing with this, and who your audience is and what they want to know. It's not so much to hear, it's what they want to know and come away with knowledge that, it's like reading a book. You learn things, and, unlike a lot of media where you get a lot of advertising and they try and make you think differently or try and sell you. You're just, you're just making people aware. You're exposing and letting them. That's the reason why I loved Ivor's article in Goldmine where he left it up to people to decide who did what. The way he wrote it was really brilliant. And so anyway, yeah. So let's play some music and look forward to the coming shows. And again, God bless you, Joyce and Tom, and thank you so much for letting this happen.
Ernie, thank you too. And Cheryl, we got you, my dear. We're going to be playing your music, and maybe Ernie, we could connect with her. I don't know. She has a
Well,
lovely website.
Well, what I'll do is I'll reach out to Rick and Mary Jo because I think they're still friends, and maybe we can get her to come on.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
That
I'll
would
try. I'll do that. That'll be my task to do. I'll take care of that.
Thank you, my friend. Peace out. And, our block party family, there is a wonderful video that goes along with our Ernie's Corner chats that you will get to see. And of course, you get to hear it on the block party. Ernie, have a great day. And thanks again for being a great creative director and a magician.
I make myself disappear.